Welcome to News Today. The headline news. Nigeria former Vice President Atiku Abubakar and the People Democratic Party (PDP) described the Presidency tax reforms as hasty and insensitive. The news in full. The Nigeria former Vice President Atiku Abubakar and the People Democratic Party (PDP) picked holes in reform, described the move as, quote, hasty and insensitive amid ongoing controversy surrounding the alleged alteration to the legislation. In recent times, there have been allegation by a member of the House of Representatives from Sokoto State, Abdul Samad Dasuki, of attraction to the gazetted tax reforms. Dasuki alleged that the versions of the tax reforms gazetted and made public contain provisions never debated or approved by lawmakers. And this has sparked calls for the suspension of the implementation of the tax law, In the same vein, the Aminu Turaki led PDP, in a statement issued on Tuesday by its National Publicity Secretary, Ini Emenombo, said that the president's stance demonstrated that he prioritized revenue generation over the welfare of the Nigerians. Again, the former Vice President Atiku said, quote, how do we know that what substantial was attended to, was altered? I repeat, how do we know that nothing substantial, rather, was altered? Was there an investigation by the federal government or the president? We are only aware that there was an ad hoc committee that had not completed its work. So, why would the president go ahead? The president should remember that his mandate is derived from Nigerians. Nigerians have spoken, and they have spoken clearly about how they feel concerning these tax laws. End of quote. Quote again, as you know, by Atiku. Quote again, as you know, tax laws have a large or a huge impact on people's lives, and it is only proper that all the processes that have been initiated are exhausted to be sure that this law was duly passed by the National Assembly and assented to by the President without discrepancies. One, otherwise, it amounts to forgery, and that, by the way, is the character of this administration. It appears that forgery has become a state policy to the extent that even a tax law also and a so-called reforms meant to improve tax administration in Nigeria already has serious issues even before implementation. End of quote. Sadly, therefore, quote again, Sadly, it appears that the Senate President and the President are working in concert to ensure that Nigerians do not even have the benefit of this particular document. What was signed and gazetted? These are supposed to be 3 copies, one with the Presidency, and one with Supreme Court, and one with National Assembly. Why is it difficult to provide any of these documents so that Nigerians can independently determine what happened and whether the allegations are true? It is not the responsibility of the Presidency to dismiss these concerns. Doing so represents the height of irresponsibility, to say the least. End of quote. Quote again by Abubakar. If the President, by the PDP, if the President goes ahead with its implementation, I want to say clearly that this is an act of irresponsibility. If it reflects elements of dictatorship and follows the same pattern of state capture, I do not think it is the right thing to do. He must understand that there are consequences for actions and inactions. End of quote. However, PDP as a party reaffirmed that Nigerians are calling for comprehensive probe into the irregularities and need clarity about who carried out the alleged illegal insertion and the process through which it occurred in the first place. PDP also described what it described decried. PDP also decried, that People Democratic Party as a party, also decried what it described as the Tinubu administration's tendency since assuming office in 2023 to place revenue consideration above the welfare and well-being of Nigerians. PDP said, quote, rather than address these issues comprehensively, the Presidency has consciously minimized them and instead vehemently insisted that the commencement date must stand despite the discrepancies. This deposited clearly. Deposited clearly. This shows clearly that clearly shows where the priority of the government lies between Nigerians and money. End of quote. Quote again. This Tinubu presidency has always prioritized finance over the well-being of Nigerians from its inception in 2023, as evidenced by the reckless way it announced and implemented the removal of subsidy, which immediately impacted the economy of the country and caused ordinary Nigerians to suffer irreparable economic damage. End of quote. Quote again. In this instance, the President should remember that he is an employee of the people and therefore should listen to his employers, Nigerians. He should also remember that he won with less than 40% of the votes in the election that gave him the job, and should therefore recognize that his listening to Nigerians must be a primary and of his administration, rather than serving the narrow interests of people around him. End of quote. Quote again, Mr. President, Mr. President is reminded that a responsible PDP, People Democratic Party administration in 2012 listened to the cries of Nigerians and civil society organization. That's where he played a prominent role during the protests against the removal of fuel subsidy. Indifference to the voices of Nigerians. End of quote and full stop. Sally Emmanuel, reporting from my channel.